From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Becoming Thin podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? But more importantly, what failure did you go through, and what lesson did you get from that failure? Come on now, don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your lesson. That's your reward for your troubles, after all. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up again. Before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and fat. And I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my real-life lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and to my systems of belief. Because it's all of those things that created the results of my life. And if I wanted to get new results, I was going to have to go change those things. And if you want to get new results, you're going to have to go change those same 6 things. And now I'm here each week to help you make the changes like that in your life, to help them actually stick. Losing all the weight was so worth all the effort. You said it took me 26 months to do it. I had to sacrifice quite a bit to get it done. But when I got to the other side, it didn't really feel like a sacrifice. It only seemed to feel like a sacrifice along the way. But as I got more success, and I started to realize the benefits of all these changes I was making in my life, it just began to not feel like so much of a sacrifice. All those times I had to sit in a little bit of uncomfortable hunger. All those times I had to go out on another damn walk when I was just sort of over it for the day. But I did it anyway. And what happened is, as I showed up for myself again and again and again and again, my self-confidence, my trust in myself, and my personal relationship began to repair. You see, when you make promises to yourself and then you keep those promises with yourself, you improve your self-trust. You improve the relationship you have with yourself. But when you make promises to yourself and you break them, you erode your self-trust. You erode the relationship you have with yourself. Your self-respect is so hard to earn and so easy to lose when it comes to ourselves. And I'm telling you, the weight loss journey helped me restore my self-respect because I just showed up for myself again and again and again. And when I fell down and failed to show up for myself, I got back up and I showed up for myself again. And I know that you're doing the same thing in your life. You're continuing to push and show up for yourself. Keep doing it. Now, this week, I got something special for you. I opened the floor up at the Facebook group for the Becoming Thin community, which, by the way, you can join by searching for Becoming Thin on Facebook. But I asked them, hey, tell me your questions. Let's take your questions this week on the podcast. And boy, did y'all show up. Y'all gave me so many wonderful, great questions. I plan to answer them all. I copied and pulled them all out, but I don't have time to get to them all today because I know just the handful I got, I'm going to have to really push to get through them all today. Here's a preview of what we're going to cover today. Some of the questions, we're digging into what to do when your closest relationship revolve around food. You ever have that problem when you're losing weight? We're also going to talk about what to do with those late night snack cravings that aren't about hunger. Another important thing to really dive into. It's going to tackle a couple of different areas. How to quiet nonstop food noise in your head. Why belief in yourself gets harder the more times you've tried. Isn't that interesting how that happens? And yes, we're going to touch on an interesting topic that's near and dear to me. We're going to talk about ADHD and how how that can impact some of your hunger cues, especially when using ADHD meds. So if you want to ask a question in a future episode, you can do this by joining the Becoming Thin Facebook group. It's totally free to join that, and it's where I go to directly connect with you, the listener of this community, and gather your input for episodes like this one. So come in there, post, share your story. I'm in there every single day. When you get accepted, I want you to know it's me that clicks the button that lets you in. I read every single name that comes in. So I'd love to have you come be a part of that. You can just search for Becoming Thin on Facebook, or you can click the link in the show notes. So let's get to the first question. Now, the first question actually comes from an anonymous member of the community. They elected to post this one anonymously, which is something I do allow in that community. But I think this is a really important question because it touches for so many of us along our weight loss journey. So I call this question the eating buddy dilemma. Here's the question. You talk about changing your community. I work with my community, aka Eating Buddy. I know you know what I'm talking about. How can I deal with that and stay on plan? It's hard. And yes, we can do hard things, but ... Okay, yeah, we all have an eating buddy. My eating buddy's name was Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night. I'm just kidding. But no, really, I do. I had my people that I hung out with to eat with. Now, I started thinking of this in terms of like, there's your necessary eating, like you're going out to eat dinner, but then there's recreational eating. I don't know if there's anything wrong with recreational eating, just like I don't know that I could say there's anything wrong with recreational drinking. However, if you're hanging out with a drunkard, maybe you shouldn't recreationally drink with them. You know, if you're an alcoholic, you got to watch, you got to walk away from your drinking buddies. But with food, this is a little more challenging, right? Because with alcohol, it's like, you don't actually need alcohol in life. Like, really, you could just not have any and your life will not be worse off. I mean, if you were using alcohol as a coping mechanism, your life might be worse off, but that's probably not awesome that you're using alcohol as a coping mechanism. Probably should deal with that. But barring that, you know, if you're like, I drink too much, I got to stop. If you get away from your drinking buddies and get away from alcohol, it's fine. You can go about your day to day and just not have alcohol. Food, on the other hand, is a little trickier. You can't just not have food. And it's not like there's no good food and bad food. So it's not like you have to avoid certain foods. You have to avoid certain behaviors around food. And that's much more tricky to do. And so humans tend to act like and adopt the beliefs and culture of people they spend the most time with. So if you hang out with a lot of people, we're eating and celebrating with food and helping sad feelings with food and sharing food for love, and everything revolves around food. When you're seeking to live a different lifestyle that honestly requires you to downgrade food in importance in your life, not to say you can't have it and enjoy it, you can, of course. It's just it can't be your number one most important thing. But if I think back to me before my weight loss journey, I would say things like, well, food is one of the most important things in my life. Like, and not like as in it gives me life. And no, I mean like from an enjoyment factor. Enjoying food was a huge part of my life before. And if I continued to hang around all the time and recreationally eat with people that had that value, that would be really difficult to do. Right? When you deviate from your tribe, from the people you hang out with, it creates a sort of tension. And most people are okay with it to an extent, but the further you get away from them, the more that tension manifests. Now, I don't know enough about your specific situation. When you said, I work with my community, AKA eating buddy, so I don't know what that means. But I'm going to make a guess, and I'm going to draw from my own experience, recognizing that I could be completely wrong because I'm just filtering this through my lens. But I think to where I worked, my coworkers and several clients were eating buddies. We would go out and eat a lot at lunch. You know, it was all about eating, having snacks. We made it socially acceptable together to bring a handful of chocolate, you know, like Snickers and Twix and Milky Ways, you know, the little bite size. We made it socially acceptable to bring like a handful, like 12 of them into the meeting and eat all 12 of them throughout a meeting. I mean, literally, we would just have this pile of wrappers sitting in front of us. Many of us would do this. Like, we just made it socially acceptable to do that. I'm telling you, if I was the only one in the room doing that, I might have felt a little weird about it. I probably wouldn't have done it. But when others were doing it, I felt like, well, if others are doing it, I could do it too. And then my coworkers were my eating buddies, but it's not because they were all overweight and gaining weight. They weren't all doing that, but there was a handful of us. We liked food. We liked our food. We talked about our food. We talked about the food after work. Food was our thing, was our conversation point. It reminds me a lot of my gaming buddies. We talked about gaming all the time. Everything was about gaming. And so when I started to move away from food, I just had one less thing to talk about with them. So I actually stopped getting lunch with a lot of my coworkers. I just stopped doing it. I just started getting lunch by myself or only getting lunch with coworkers infrequently, and being much more mindful about where I go to eat, because a lot of times the coworkers would want to go somewhere that didn't fit my goals at the time. So it's like, you know, it's not that there's good foods or bad food. It's just I have a goal right now and that food doesn't really fit in my goals. Later I could have it, but it's like I need to budget if I'm going to have a cheeseburger for lunch usually. So, what I would say is don't think you have to get rid of the bond and the friendship. Sometimes that's required, but rather alter how you participate in the relationship. Avoid certain topics of conversation. Try to change the topic if you can, or just remove yourself from the room. But also combat this by having people that are supportive of your new goals and lifestyle in your life in addition to these. You know, if all you have in your life is your eating buddies, it's going to be hard. Just like if you were a drinker and all of your social network, 100% of them drink, that's going to be challenging. It will be helpful to go form a community of people that don't drink. That's part of why AA works, is it helps a person form a new community of people that are moving away from drinking. And I think for you, it would be important to form a community with people that are moving away from food being the most important thing in their life. Good question. I'm not sure who you are because it's anonymous, but good question. Let's go to the second question. This comes from Anne Marie. This is believing again after years of trying. She asks, how do you learn to believe in yourself that this time will work after years of effort with little progress? I remember that feeling. I remember before I'd lost a single pound, before I had done anything. It's actually almost exactly 6 years ago. Almost exactly 6 years ago. In a couple of weeks, it will be exactly 6 years ago. When I was pondering this exact same thing at the very beginning of my journey, thinking, I can't bear to fail again. You know, I felt like it was just like every time I started a diet, it felt like a race against my own willpower. It's like, I got a little motivation, I got a little willpower, I got to lose as much weight as I possibly can before the willpower's gone. Because once the willpower's gone, I'm probably going to quit. And I need to have peeled off as many pounds as I can. I was like, I just can't do this again. I'm sick of failing. I'm sick of getting later in the journey where I get frustrated, where I quit, I take a break, and then I just don't get back to it, and I just slowly gain weight back again. I'm like, I'm not willing to do that. I can't do it, but I can't stay here. I can't keep gaining weight year after year after year after year. I can't every 3 or 4 years be noticeably heavier than I was before, because if that trend continues, I'm going to shorten my life. I'm going to reduce the quality of my life. I'm just going to get fatter and more unhealthy. I got to do something about this, but I can't bear to fail. And that's where I felt. I felt like trapped between a rock and a hard place. But I realized I had been putting faith in solutions. Diets you could name, personalities with a name, ironic with what I do for a living now. But I was putting my faith in these things. What I had never done was put my faith in myself. What I would do is I would put my faith in a solution, and then when the solution would fail, I would blame me. I would make it about my character, because I would see somebody else that was successful with that solution, be like, why can't I be as good as them? How come they're so much better? I must be broken. There must be something wrong with me. I can't lose weight. You can lose weight and do it that way, but I can't. I have no discipline. I have no willpower. I would take the solution that didn't work for me, and I would use it to assassinate my character. Maybe that solution did work for that person, but it didn't work for me. And I sat there and just sat with that. And it's like, wait a minute. It's like the Thomas Edison with the light bulb story. You know that story, right? Where, you know, he was showing somebody how to make a light bulb. A guy comes over to visit, and he's like, come here, I got to show you this invention I'm working on. I'm trying to make a thing I'm calling a light bulb. I'm making up a story. I don't know exactly how this goes down. But, and the guy's like there, and he turns it on, the light bulb goes, whoosh, and it explodes. And the guy's like, what are you talking? That didn't work. You're not making anything. You're a failure. And he's like, no, I just found 9,999 ways not to make a light bulb. That is not how you do it. And you just keep going. We've all heard that story where when you do something and it doesn't work, you go, now I know what not to do. It's so funny with me with weight loss. I'd be like, let's do this diet. And then it would help me lose 20, 30 pounds. I'd get frustrated. I'd quit. And I'd be like, let's do it again. Because it didn't work. Why? Because I'm the problem. And then I go try it again and then it wouldn't work. Like, oh man, let's do it again. And I just kept coming back to the same handful of diets, but I would go around saying I've tried everything. Because what I was doing when I said I tried everything to get myself to stick to a handful of stupid solutions. I just kept rotating the same solutions around. Or I would chase the latest fad. And then I'm sitting there, I'm reflecting back on my past, and I'm like, I have made all these mistakes. What if, rather than looking at these as proof positive that I suck, what if I just looked at them as these are ways not to lose weight? I haven't failed. I have just found a bunch of ways not to work, not to fix this problem. Don't do these. Don't do keto. It hasn't worked. Don't do Weight Watchers. It hasn't worked. Don't do a stupid shakes diet where they starve you. It doesn't work. I tried them and I tried them multiple times. And I tried to come at them multiple angles. I gave it a real shot. They don't work. Let's abandon these. So, of course, I started looking for other solutions with a name. But then I just started thinking, I cannot fail again. What can I do that I know I cannot fail? What can I do that I know I cannot fail? And I started thinking like, well, there always has to be a first time, right? I mean, that whole Thomas Edison approach, like that implies that there is a first time. It's a string of failures and then the first success. And then you just keep iterating success. Like our light bulbs today are noticeably better than the first light bulb. And so it's like we just kept iterating. Well, it's like, well, what if I took that approach and I just kept iterating, find something that works and then improve it, and then improve it, and then improve it. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, this is what I love to do at work. I'm a big fan of Kaizen. Continuous incremental improvement ongoing. I'm a big fan of that. Why don't I do that with my weight loss journey? So I was like, okay, what are small steps I can do to move forward? Only when I'm hungry. I can do that. Work out 3 times a week for 20 minutes. I can do that. End of list. I can do that. What else would help me do these things? It's like, well, if I slept good, that'd probably help. I hear a lot of diets talk about sleep and my sleep kind of sucks. So let's start getting some sleep. I can do that. What else do I notice a lot of diets talk about? Well, a lot of them talk about being hydrated. That doesn't seem to be a point of controversy. I don't really ever hear anybody say you shouldn't drink water. So it's like, I can do that. I'll focus on that. These seem reasonable. And then I was like, well, what else can I do? It's like, well, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what not to eat, but most diets seem to imply that I need to eat less. Like nobody ever seems to argue that point. Like no one ever seems to argue that I'm just going to need to eat less food. I don't know how much less. I don't know what to eat. So, but let's just start with less. Just whatever I normally get less. So I did that. And so I think what really comes into this is you believe in yourself by choosing to do it. But a lot of times that's hard. So you choose to believe in the possibility of your success. That creates an opening that belief can sneak into. It's possible. It's possible. I could lose all the weight and keep it off. That's all you need to get started. Just a little bit of it's possible belief. Because as you begin to get evidence, you will begin to actually believe you can do it. This is the mindset game of weight loss. You've got to create belief in your mind, and it will require choosing to believe in yourself to make it happen. Now, hey, if this conversation about rebuilding belief is hitting hard, and you're tired of starting over, and you want a real mental reset to help you on your weight loss journey, you're done searching for diets, you're done searching for things with a name. Again, I know the irony of this, but I want to personally invite you to attend my upcoming workshop. I call it the Mindset of Weight Loss. And it's a free, totally free, 3-day workshop where I'm going to walk you through the exact framework I used to kickstart my 125-pound weight loss journey after an entire adulthood of chronic dieting. I mean, always overweight. I crossed 200 pounds as a teenager, never saw below it again, and I finally broke it. I figured out the pattern to make it work, and I want to give it to you, and it's syncing up with my weight loss journey. I've been wanting to do this for years, to do a workshop that syncs up on the day my weight loss journey began, because I still remember. And you can register for that. Oh, by the way, it's on June 23rd, 4th, and 5th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the evenings, replays are available. So if you can't attend live, if you register, you're going to get a replay link every day. You can register for that by going to imnotquitting.com. That's imnotquitting.com. It's free and it's live, and you will be able to start putting things into effect right away. Let's take the next question. Our next question comes from Brittany, again, in the Becoming Thin Facebook group. She says, I do well with intuitive eating throughout the day, but I find myself craving snacks in the evening out of habit or emotional reasons rather than hunger. A common thing, the evening snacking comes into play. Let's talk about one thing that affects this a lot for many people. In the evening, you have run out of something you might call executive function. You might call it willpower. Your conscious mind requires a lot of energy to work, way more than the unconscious mind. It has to go 24/7. Your conscious mind needs things like rest. And it's this willpower, you could call it, it's a finite resource. As in, when you wake up today, you do not have an infinite supply of willpower. While it may not be infinite, it's renewable. So when you sleep, when you stay hydrated, when you work on your mental health, when you get your body and mind operating well, you can increase your capacity for willpower. But when you wake up every day, you have what you have, so to speak. You can generate some more willpower throughout the day, maybe do some resting, some meditation, to have some peace practices, whatever might work for you. But by and large, what typically happens is throughout the day, you're making continual if this, then that questions. If this happens, I'm going to do this. This has happened. I'm going to do that. Should I do this? Should I do that? Okay, I have this thing. I have this problem I need to do here. Your brain is, your conscious mind is constantly analyzing and working and thinking and doing. And by the time, and then you have your emotional mind. The emotional side of you is chipping away and eroding at that energy too. It's not a bad thing this is happening. It's like, it'd be like saying it's bad that your car uses gas when you drive. No, that's just how it works. You can't drive without using gas. And so you can't use your brain without using up this energy, so to speak. And when you get to the end of the day, the energy is depleted. And if your day is very stressful, if your day is very active, you may notice that by the end of the day, your mental energy is heavily depleted. And so this can make it challenging in the evening to stick to your weight loss journey. The food noise can go up during this time. And so when you could think of it like an emotional crash zone, like your emotions just really show up. They don't have the conscious mind to help regulate them a little bit. And this all becomes a much more emotional experience in the evening. My advice, don't show up to that environment, to that sort of circumstances without a plan. When you are of sound mind, when you have plenty of mental energy, you must contemplate these evening times. I want you to reflect back on the last few weeks of the evenings. What are your natural predispositions? What are you naturally finding yourself wanting to do? What I found helped myself on my journey, and what I found has helped so many others when I work with them too, is be mindful of where you need to ask yourself to change and where it might be better just to accommodate yourself. So in my case, in the beginning of my journey, and still to this day, I realize I enjoy evening snacking. I enjoy it. It's fun. It tastes good. But I've discovered I can also pair hunger with evening snacking. The problem I've realized is if I eat a ton throughout the day, I'm likely to still evening snack in the evening. It would be far better then to just during the day when I have more mental energy to eat less, not restrict myself heavily. Just less, so that I have some calories left over for me at the end of the day. In maintenance, this is a lot easier because you have a lot more calories to play with, about 1,000 calories more a day. Think about that. You have a lot more calories to play with in maintenance. But when you're losing weight, you're in a temporary state of being. Now, this temporary state of being may persist for a couple of years, but you can do it. I promise you can do it. Don't give up. You can. But for this temporary state of being, you're going to have to be hungry sometimes during the day. And then you're going to have a plan for the evening. So what I think would work really well for many of you is predetermine what your evening snacks are going to be. That's what I do right now. It works really well. I'm in a deficit actually right now this week. So I'm wanting to peel off about 10 pounds after bulking. And so this is my first time doing that, by the way. So it's kind of fun. But what helps me in my deficit right now is in the evening, I get 4 snacks. Those are my 4 snacks. Now, I can swap any of those 4 out with something else, but I typically don't. And I get 1 of each snack. And they're pre-planned in my calories. So I have a calorie plan throughout the day that if I stick to it, I can have my evening snacks. If I go over during the day, I start losing evening snacks. I did this last week. Last week, I went out with my wife for date night. I decided I wanted to get a cheeseburger and some potatoes for a side. And so I sacrificed some of my evening snacks to add the calories to my dinner. That was a choice that I made. But a lot of times I found it was just much easier to just make sure I'm setting aside some calories for the end of the day so that I could enjoy them rather than trying to overnight get myself to stop eating at night. What slowly started to happen, and when I mean slowly, I mean over like a year, I began to eat a little less and a little less and a little less in the evening. I began to slowly space out my snacks in the evening. From rather than having all 4 of them within an hour, I started having all 4 of them within 2 hours. And then I started having them within 3 hours. And then I realized in 3 hours, I'm going to bed. So I would have 1 less snack over 3 hours, right? I just slowly, very slowly started to eat less. That's what I would advise for you. Next question comes from Sawyer, again, from the Becoming Thin Facebook group. I've heard you talk a little about food noise, but would love more on your perspective/tips for quieting it. All right, great question. Let's talk a little bit about food noise briefly. There's food noise, which you might say is hunger, But then there's more of the emotional eating food noise, the urge to eat for reasons that have nothing to do with physical hunger. So it's best to think of hunger in two categories. You have physical hunger and you have emotional hunger, often referred to as hedonic hunger. This is hunger that is not needed for your physical body. It is not needed to power you. It is not needed for anything other than psychological reasons. So the problematic food noise is more that variety. Some of you will have hunger that is a bit higher than what is necessary for your body. So that could also be food noise, but that's more like physical hunger. The overwhelming majority of you, your physical hunger cues are just fine. They're not broken. You're not getting more hungry than you're supposed to be. You just might not be satisfying it well, but your hunger cues are fine. Yes, for some of you, the minority of you, your hunger cues might be off. What's probably happening, though, is many of you, your food noise is off the charts because of the foods you're eating. Certain foods will trigger food noise. I want to remind you, our food supply, the majority of the processed and ultra-processed foods are made by a handful of super mega corporations, okay? And they employ the world's best food scientists that have ever walked the planet right now. And they are designing foods with one thing in mind, to get you to eat it. Because when you eat it and you buy it, the company makes money. And they want you to keep eating it. That's their mission, is to make ultra-palatable foods that you will want to keep eating. It's like a drug, and you are competing against the world's best at it that have ever lived and have ever existed. So when you're eating ultra-processed foods, one of the challenges of it is it often will cause you to want to keep eating it, and it also will not leave you satisfied. It will not carry you for many, many hours. You will notice that if you have an ultra-processed meal that is 800 calories versus a home-cooked meal that is 800 calories, you will notice that home-cooked meal will probably carry you a lot longer. You will probably not have as much food noise that comes from that one. So I notice if certain foods cause me to have cravings. And so when I say yes to, let's say, a Krispy Kreme donut, I am not just saying yes to one donut. I am simultaneously saying yes to a month of craving donuts. I will be regularly craving them. You might call that food noise. I call that a craving. It's hedonic hunger. Something about a Krispy Kreme donut causes me to want to have it. And so what will help you is to begin studying the foods. Eat foods and observe, how does your body react to it? Do you get hungry within a couple of hours? Eat a meal and observe how your hunger behaves for the next 3 to 4 hours. Then eat a different meal and see if your hunger behaves differently. If you keep snacking after you eat, you're ruining the experiment. You need to eat a proper lunch and then not eat for 5 hours and just see what your body does. Something that helps with this, by the way, is recognizing there's nothing wrong with going 6 hours without eating. There's nothing wrong with eating at lunch and then not eating again. Anything, nothing, until 7 p.m. There's nothing wrong with that. If you eat enough food at lunch, but if you eat like a squirrel at lunch, you're probably not getting enough calories to carry you to 7 o'clock. The amount of food you eat and what you eat make a difference on that. So study yourself. Be both scientist and test subject. And also be mindful of the foods that are around you. Sometimes we have a lot of food noise because the foods are placed all around us where we can see them. All right, we have foods out on the counter. You open your cabinets. The triggering foods are right there front and center. And so your eyes trigger you to want something. I think of this like the Andes Mint analogy. If I were to come, have you had an Andes Mint in the last week? Chances are you have not, unless you've been to Olive Garden. But if I were to say this, what if I took a big bowl of Andes Mints and set them on your kitchen counter, and I left them there for 3 weeks? What are the odds you would have one Andes Mint at some point over the next 3 weeks? Well, odds are pretty good you'd have one. Just one. But I'd have to ask you the follow-up question. Did you get it because you wanted it, or did you get it because it was there and you saw it all the time? It's probably the second answer, because if it wasn't there, you probably weren't going to have an Andes Mint in that 3 weeks. If you wanted it, you would seek it out and get it. Far too often, we're not getting what we want. We're wanting what we see, and we're getting it because it's there. So another thing you can do with your food noise is to be mindful of the foods that are around you. Great question. Next question comes from Spencer. Would you mind speaking more in depth about why someone should choose to abstain from weight loss drugs? I feel like I've seen you talk about it in Facebook groups, but I think it's been a while since you spoke in depth about it on a podcast. So my opinion about GLP-1s continues to evolve. It is so new that I am not comfortable pitching a flag and saying this is an immovable opinion that's not going to sway. That seems narrow-minded to me. That seems close-minded to do that. To just be like, this is the way it is, and not let new information show up and allow my opinion to change. Somewhere along the line, humans started getting this weird stick up their butt where they get mad if somebody changes when they learn new information. You can really see this in politics. Heaven forbid a politician change their mind about something. Good heavens. Now you're a flip-flopper. And it's humans. It's not just politics that people do this. People do this all the time. So my opinion about GLP-1s continues to evolve. So here's my current as of Friday the 13th of June 2025 opinion and thoughts about GLP-1s as a weight loss coach with a unique insight into the industry, just watching it because it's what I do for a living. There are some people where GLP-1 makes sense. But I think that is not the majority. I think a lot of people are going to use a GLP-1 rather than seeking to change their lifestyle. They don't want to go through the hassle, because it is a hassle, of changing your mindset, because some of them just don't even know that's an option. Like, I every day come in contact with people that are like, Chris, I've never heard your approach to weight loss. But it's like, I've been talking about it for 6 years. And so, but they're still discovering for the first time. So some people, they truly believe they've done everything. And now this GLP-1's here and they're thinking they're going to do it. Because I think back to me, if I hadn't kickstarted my journey 6 years ago, old Chris, if he were here today, he would probably be thinking he's tried everything. And I can't be sure old Chris wouldn't have taken a GLP-1. I can't be sure he wouldn't, because old Chris chased fads. So I didn't know about a mindset first approach to weight loss. No one had ever spoken to me about it. So for a person that is completely unaware of a mindset first approach to weight loss, and a person that is completely unaware that the reason why you're big is not because you're broken and not because you like carbs, it's because you have a lifestyle that is conducive for being big. Most people don't realize their body is a byproduct of their lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and belief systems. They don't know that. They don't realize what you got to do to change. And it's hard. Most people aren't willing to do it the slow way, too. They're just straight up not willing to do it. They would rather spend 5 years hunting for the quick way to find it on year 6 rather than just taking 3 years to lose it and being done 3 years ago. Like, right? Most people would rather waste time looking for a shortcut. And so I don't think a GLP-1 is a shortcut to weight loss. I think it's a shortcut to managing your hunger. What it does is it just takes all the mental work away. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I teach weight loss, I teach a lot of it around listening to your hunger, learning about your hunger, learning your body's hunger cues, and learning how to fit that in with the tapestry of life, recognizing that we have fun foods. We have times we eat when hunger isn't involved, looking that we have to have a more balanced approach to food, but hunger sits at the center of it. When you take a GLP-1, hunger goes away. You still got to do everything else. If anything, you got to do the exercise more, because the GLP-1 is likely to cause you to lose weight so quick that you're going to lose muscle mass. And so you're going to have to go do the exercise. You're going to have to eat the protein. You're probably not even going to want to do it. And so a lot of people getting on a GLP-1 are having they're becoming under-muscled. That is an entirely secondary problem. And some people are like, well, I don't care. I don't want to be jacked. No, you don't understand how important muscles are. You need muscle mass on your body. And for some of you that are over 50, 55, that are going to be going on a GLP-1, it's already hard for you to put on muscle mass. So you're just making it worse. If you're in your 60s taking a GLP-1, you have to be strength training. You have to. You've got no choice. You've got to strength train if you're on a GLP-1, because you can't afford to lose any muscle mass because you're already losing it anyway. You can't afford to, because if you lose your muscle mass and your bone density, yeah, you're thinner, but you created an entirely new problem. And so the other challenge I'm seeing with weight loss drugs is there's studies showing that the average, this is current, we'll see how it changes over time, but currently the average length of time a person stays on a GLP-1 is 2 years. 2 years. What do you think is going to happen when they come off of it? The doctors are very clear. This is likely to be a lifetime subscription to thinness when you get a GLP-1. That's what it is. You're paying to be thin for the rest of your life. That's likely what it is. It's the perfect drug for the drug companies, by the way. It's the perfect drug. So for some people, do you need it? That's up to you, God and your doctor. I don't know. It's not my decision to make. But I just know objectively, a lot of people don't. They don't need it. But it's not because they're choosing to be lazy. Many times it is because a person is just simply unaware of another approach that would work. They're just unaware. Now, some people are just being lazy. Yes, 100%, there is a noticeable amount of people that are just being lazy and they're looking for a shortcut. Lots of humans do things for all sorts of motivations. I have no way to know the person who, if I'm talking to a person, unless we have a conversation and they tell me, I have no way to know what a person's motive is. So all I can assume is if you're on a GLP-1, I'm going to help you. I want to make sure you're well informed about what this is going to do, what you need to do to make it work, and to continue to remind you that you don't get out of the basics and that you got to strength train. But look, a drug is not going to magically make you form new habits. A drug is not going to magically make you want to stop emotionally eating. So just remember this. A new mindset doesn't come in a syringe, all right? It comes in a book and it comes from the work. All right, let's wrap up with the last question. ADHD and hunger cues. This comes from Stephanie. She says, how did you balance eat when hungry, stop when full mindset while also taking ADHD meds that suppress appetite? I think I recall you saying that you take these medications. So yes, the medications, especially some of them, can just nuke an appetite while they're in effect. What I found really helps with that is if for whatever reason my appetite isn't working or I can't rely on it, there's various factors that might cause that to happen. If I can't rely on my appetite, I eat to a schedule. When I eat at a schedule, then I can regulate the calorie intake. So it's like, it's lunchtime. I'm going to eat lunch, even though I'm not hungry. Eat it anyway. Find something I can eat. Okay, it's dinner. I'm not hungry. Eat it anyway. I allocate a certain amount of calories and I manage it. I've had this happen the other way, where I discovered when you come out of a prolonged deficit, your hunger cues are way out of whack for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I had just insatiable hunger. I had to just trust the calories. I'd be like, look, self, you had 2,500 calories today. You are fine. I know you're still hungry, but you just go to bed because you don't need any more food. All right. Because I'd learned about this hunger spike. I look at the same thing if your hunger goes away. You know, for some of us, when we get anxious, it happens to me now, I don't want to eat. But I realize if you're having a lot of anxiety, you need to eat. So again, same thing. If I don't want to eat and I'm under eating, I got to eat to a schedule. And I schedule my food and schedule my calories. It would be preferable that you use your hunger, but sometimes there are factors outside of our control that make it where we can't do that. But it's, ADHD meds, for those of you that do it, it can make it easy to not snack in between windows. Something to consider. You eat lunch, have your ADHD meds, and you just don't want to snack till dinner. So make sure you eat enough at lunch so that you're not ravenous hungry when your afternoon dose wears off in the evening. All right. Hey, we're going to stop here with the questions. These are great questions. There's so many more that I want to get. If you want to leave a question, you can do so in the Becoming Thin Facebook group. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, the best way you can support the show is real simple. Leave a review or a comment. And if you're on Spotify, if you just open up your app right now and scroll down, you'll see a comment box down below. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you got anything out of it, please leave a comment. I'd love to read your comments. I read every single one of them. I would love to read your comment about what you thought of the episode, what takeaways you had, any feedback you might have to help make the show better for you. And if you are on Apple Podcasts, I would love it if you could leave me a rating and a review. I'd love to get a 5-star review, but I want the chance to earn it. So if you're new here, give me a handful of episodes and give me a chance to earn that 5-star review. But if you feel I've earned it, I'd love to get one. And please leave a written review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Recent reviews help keep the podcast going and help gets in front of more people. I just crossed 500 reviews on Apple Podcasts. I'm really excited about that. That's a big number. I've been working for years to get that number. So thank you, all of you that have left a review on the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Go have a great day. Enjoy your weight loss journey. And I will see you next week on the Becoming Thin podcast.